Some stories are written to entertain, others are told to hide the truth. In the heart of a quiet town sits a bookstore unlike any other, a place where dust dances in golden light and every shelf hides a doorway to another world. For 16-year-old Alex, it was simply a place of wonder, until the day he found the book. Its cover shimmered like a pearl, its pages whispered of mermaids, not the kind from children's fairy tales, but ancient, powerful beings whose songs could calm storms or destroy ships. And as Alex listened to the old storyteller, Mr. Abernathy, weave a tale of a vanished ship and a secret war beneath the waves, he began to wonder, was this only a story or a confession?
Hello, story fans! Welcome back to our channel, your home for unforgettable tales filled with mystery, myth, and the thrill of the unknown. If you love stories that pull you in and won't let go, hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments. Your feedback inspires us to keep bringing these adventures to life for you. Now, let's turn the page and step into Act 1 of The Dusty Scroll.
The small bell above the door of the Dusty Scroll bookstore rang softly when 16-year-old Alex opened it. The sound was like a gentle invitation into a place where time seemed to stop. Outside, there were loud car noises and construction sounds, but inside it was quiet, except for the sound of pages turning and a cat purring. The air in the Dusty Scroll smelled like old paper, leather, and a hint of past adventures. Small dust particles danced in the sunlight that came through the dirty windows. They lit up tall bookshelves that looked like ancient trees, filled with colorful books. Every surface, from the worn wooden floor to the narrow paths between shelves, seemed heavy with countless stories. Alex, a boy whose imagination was bigger than his small town, felt strongly drawn to the Dusty Scroll. While other kids liked video games and comics, Alex preferred the quiet company of characters in books. He was thin, with curious hazel eyes that often seemed to see things others missed, and messy brown hair. He felt restless this Saturday because the day promised only chores and boring sports on TV. He longed for something magical, something extraordinary that his school life didn't offer. He moved through the store's winding paths easily, like a skilled explorer. His fingers touched old book titles, each one a possible new world. There were stories of brave knights, dragons, space travelers, and old curses. He passed shelves of history books, philosophy books, and even cookbooks for dishes from ancient empires. But today, none of them felt right for the quiet longing in his heart. He was looking for something else, something that whispered of wonder. His eyes looked up to a section that seemed out of reach, hidden in a shadowy corner at the back. There, in a beam of sunlight that seemed to find it on purpose, was a book unlike any he had ever seen. Its cover wasn't paper or cloth, but something else that shimmered like a pearl. The title, written in fancy, flowing letters like ocean waves, said Mermaid Cave. A sudden feeling like remembering something went through Alex. Mermaids. He had heard stories, mostly from his grandmother's old fairy tales and in brief movie scenes, but they were always presented as pure fantasy, kind creatures with shiny tails and voices like wind chimes, only existing in make-believe. His teachers, who believed strictly in scientific facts, had gently but firmly taught him that such beings were myths, beautiful perhaps, but not real. Yet this book felt different. It hummed with a quiet energy, a strong pull that was more than just curiosity. He reached for it, his small fingers tracing the unusual texture of the cover, which felt cool and smooth like scales. The pictures inside were not the sweet, brightly colored drawings of children's books. Instead, they were detailed, almost haunting etchings of figures with graceful, powerful tales. Their faces were calm yet mysterious, their eyes holding ancient secrets. He turned to a random page, his eyes scanning the thick paragraphs. The language was rich and almost like a song, speaking of coral cities and ocean currents, of songs that could calm storms and curses that could sink ships. A feeling of doubt, a delightful, unsettling question bloomed in his mind. Could it be? Could there be more to the world than what he was taught in school? Could the very air he breathed be filled with magic he simply hadn't learned to see? He held the book tightly, his fingers gripping its unique spine, and walked to the front counter. Behind it sat Mr. Abernathy, the owner, a man who seemed as much a part of the dusty scroll as the books themselves. He looked wise and comfortable, his glasses always on his nose, his thin gray hair always a bit messy, and his hands, wrinkled with age spots, always seemed stained with ink, showing a life spent with books. He was polishing a delicate teacup, humming an old, familiar tune. "Good afternoon, Alex," Mr. Abernathy said, his voice a warm, deep rumble, without looking up. He always knew who had entered, even without the bell. Alex laid the Mermaid Cave book on the counter. Its strange glow seemed to dim slightly in the ordinary overhead light. "Mr. Abernathy," he began, his voice a little softer than usual, a hesitant whisper asking a very personal question. Do they really exist?" Mr. Abernathy finally looked up. His eyes, magnified by his glasses, sparkled with a playful light. He peered at Alex over his glasses, a slow smile spreading across his face, wrinkling the corners of his eyes. He didn't answer directly, no immediate yes or no. Instead, he simply put down the teacup, wiping his hands slowly on a nearby cloth. "That young man," he said, his voice dropping to a secret whisper, "is a question many have thought about and few have truly answered." He leaned forward slightly, his elbows resting on the worn wooden counter. "Facts, you see, are what we are told. Truths are what we discover." Alex's brow wrinkled slightly. He hadn't expected a riddle. "But the book," he vaguely pointed to the shimmering cover. Mr. Abernathy picked up the book, turning it in his hands with a respect that suggested he understood its secrets deeply. "This book," he mumbled, his gaze distant, "holds more than just words on a page. It holds echoes, whispers from the deep." He looked back at Alex, his smile softening. "Tell me, Alex, are you truly fond of stories? Really fond?" Alex nodded eagerly, his first shyness momentarily forgotten. "Yes, sir, more than anything." "Good," Mr. Abernathy chuckled, a low, rumbling sound that vibrated through the quiet store. "Then perhaps you are ready." He straightened up, his movements slow and careful. "Come back next Tuesday, young man, after school. I'm holding a storytelling class. Not just any stories, mind you. These are tales that, well, they have a way of revealing their own truths." He vaguely gestured towards a dimly lit corner of the store that Alex had always thought was just another shelf, but now seemed to hold a hidden possibility, a secret stage. Alex's heart suddenly jumped with excitement. A storytelling class? With Mr. Abernathy? The idea was far more thrilling than any video game. The boring Saturday had, in an instant, turned into a gateway to something unknown and completely fascinating. He took the book back from Mr. Abernathy, his grip firm, feeling its unique weight. It no longer felt like just a book. It felt like an invitation. "I'll be here," Alex promised, his voice full of new purpose. He turned, the bell above the door chiming its gentle goodbye as he stepped back into the noisy outside world. The world suddenly seemed less boring, less ordinary, filled with the faint, shimmering possibility of mermaids. The days until Tuesday felt incredibly long for Alex. Monday was especially slow. Each tick of the classroom clock was an agonizingly slow beat in his waiting heart. He found himself staring out the window during math, his mind wandering from numbers to the shiny scales on the Mermaid Cave book. He had read a large part of it over the weekend. The beautiful writing and haunting pictures made his fascination grow deeper, making the question he had asked Mr. Abernathy burn even brighter. The book talked about a world that was colorful and dangerous, very different from the calm, playful mermaids of his childhood stories. These were powerful beings, connected to the ocean's wild force. This only increased his curiosity about what Mr. Abernathy might tell him. At school, he was usually present, if not always fully engaged, but this week his focus was broken. His teachers noticed his distracted gaze, how his pencil would stop writing in the middle of his classwork, his eyes distant, as if listening to a faint, unseen song. He tried to explain to his best friend, David, about the strange book in the storytelling class. David, a practical boy who believed only in what could be seen and touched, just shrugged. Mermaids? Come on, Alex, those are just stories. Alex simply smiled, a secret knowledge bubbling just below the surface. David, with his endless energy and love of sports facts, wouldn't understand. Not yet. He had taken the Mermaid Cave book to bed each night, not to read the same parts again, but just to hold it, to feel its unique texture, to imagine the whispers from the deep that Mr. Abernathy had mentioned. He found himself looking at the vast, moving surface of the small river near his town with new eyes, wondering what secrets might be hidden beneath its ordinary currents, if only a larger, wilder ocean could hold such wonders. Tuesday finally arrived, a clear afternoon after a morning of soft, cleaning rain. Alex dressed quickly after school, practically rushing through his afternoon snack. His heart was beating fast with excitement and a little nervousness. This felt important, more than just another activity. It felt like stepping into a new world. The walk to the dusty scroll felt different today. The familiar streets seemed to shimmer with a hidden magic. The everyday sounds of the town were quieted by the single
purpose that drove him forward. When he finally reached the store, the bell above the door chimed, less a whisper this time and more a quiet greeting, as if acknowledging his promptness and eagerness. The inside of the dusty scroll had changed subtly but significantly. The back corner, which Alex had thought was just another thick group of bookshelves, had been cleared. In its place, arranged in a rough half-circle, were about 6 different but comfortable armchairs and soft cushions, inviting them to sit. A small, beautifully carved wooden table stood in the center, with a single flickering beeswax candle and a steaming teapot. Its warmth filled the cool air. The low shelves along the back wall, usually full of forgotten books, now held a special collection of what looked like old maps, interesting objects, a polished stone, a dry, strangely shaped seed pod, a piece of what looked like petrified wood, and a single, unusually large conch shell that hummed with a faint, deep sound when Alex carefully held his ear to it. A few other children, about Alex's age and some younger, were already sitting down. There was a girl with bright red pigtails who held a well-loved stuffed dragon, her eyes wide with strong excitement. A quieter boy with glasses carefully arranged a stack of notebooks and pens next to his cushion. There were perhaps 16 to 17 children in total, or more, a small, close gathering. Each one seemed to give off a similar feeling of quiet anticipation, a shared understanding that they were about to experience something special.
Mr. Abernathy appeared from behind a tall, swaying bookshelf, carrying a stack of what looked like old, leather-bound maps of the world.
He moved with a practiced grace that hid his age, his movements smooth and unhurried. He was no longer wearing his dusty apron, but a simple, dark green vest over a crisp white shirt, making him look more formal, yet still friendly. He smiled warmly at Alex, a look of approval in his eyes. "Welcome, young navigators," Mr. Abernathy greeted, his voice resonating with a quiet authority that immediately got their attention. He placed the atlases carefully on a side table. "Take your seats, make yourselves comfortable. We are about to begin a journey that needs not only sharp ears, but open minds." Alex quickly found an empty armchair, sinking into its soft depths. The fabric was soft and welcoming. He watched as Mr. Abernathy poured tea into small, mismatched ceramic cups. The steam curled up like misty ribbons. The smell was faintly herbal and comforting. "Today," Mr. Abernathy began, his hands resting on the edge of the wooden table, his gaze sweeping over each child, "we will travel to places not found on any modern map. We will meet beings that some call just imagination, and we will see events that challenge what we believe to be real." He picked up the large conch shell, turning it slowly in his hands. Its inner spirals shone. "The world, you see, is far larger and far more mysterious than the tiny corners we live in. And the stories, the stories are the threads that connect us to these hidden truths." A deep silence fell over the small group. The red-haired girl leaned forward, clutching her dragon tightly. The boy with glasses put down his pen, his attention now solely on Mr. Abernathy. The air buzzed with expectation, a clear sense of wonder filling the cozy corner. Mr. Abernathy, feeling they were ready, took a slow, careful sip of his tea. His eyes twinkled. He then set the cup down, cleared his throat, and his voice dropped to a low, dramatic whisper, a voice that seemed to pull them into the very heart of the story.
"Imagine, if you will," Mr. Abernathy began, his voice now a low, deep rumble that seemed to echo not just in the room, but deep inside Alex's chest. "An island, not one you'd find in a travel guide, nor one easily found by satellite. This is an island covered in a constant, misty fog, a veil that seems to cling to its sharp mountains and ancient forests like a living shroud. Even on the brightest days, the mist whispers across its surface, hiding its true shape from those who casually look, making it seem less like solid land and more like a ghost, a whisper on the horizon." He paused, letting the image sink into their minds. Alex found himself picturing the mist, thick and swirling, smelling of salt and something else, something wild and ancient. "This island," Mr. Abernathy continued, his hand moving in slow, sweeping motions as if painting the scene in the air before them, "is protected by teeth. Not real teeth, of course, but by dangerous, jagged rocks that rise from the churning sea like the fossilized bones of huge, ancient beasts. They form a natural, strong barrier, a guard against unwanted visitors. Many ships, foolishly going too close, have tragically crashed on their unforgiving edges, their wood splintered, their crews swallowed by the ocean's hungry mouth. And at the heart of this formidable island," he leaned forward, his voice dropping to a near whisper, drawing them closer, "lies a cave. Not just any cave. This is the Mermaid's Cave.
Its entrance, a huge opening in the cliff face, is almost always hidden by the very mist that covers the island, or by the crashing spray of the endless waves. It is rumored among the few who have dared to speak of this place that the cave breathes with the ocean, drawing in the tides and breathing out secrets that have been protected for thousands of years. Legend says that only those with a heart truly open to the wonders of the deep, and perhaps a touch of natural goodness, could ever hope to glimpse its hidden entrance, let alone pass through its shadowy doorway. Alex felt a shiver, not of fear, but of deep excitement. This wasn't the kind of story that would be read from a textbook. This was a story that felt alive, breathing, hinting at deeper truths beyond simple facts. Mr. Abernathy's eyes, though looking at them, seemed to hold distant visions, as if he himself had walked the misty paths of that island, had felt the spray of those treacherous waves. Now, far from this wild, mysterious sanctuary, Mr. Abernathy's voice changed, gaining a new rhythm. The human world hummed with its own grand goals, and nowhere was this ambition more clear than in the huge ship known as the Titanus. He picked up one of the old atlases, opening it to a page that showed swirling ocean currents, though no island was marked. The Titanus was not just a ship, she was a floating city, a testament to human cleverness and luxury. Her hull, made from the best, strongest titanium, shone like a polished stone in the sun. She was built not only for speed and comfort, but to be almost ridiculously strong, a ship meant to conquer the ocean's wildest moods. Her decks were vast, her insides rich, filled with flowing fountains, grand ballrooms, and viewing lounges that offered wide views of the endless horizon. She showed humanity's belief that they had at last controlled the mighty seas. He closed the atlas with a soft thud, his gaze now fixed on some unseen point beyond the children, as if watching the magnificent ship glide through the water. But even the mightiest ships, built with the strongest materials, are just fragile toys when faced with forces beyond human understanding. And on this particular voyage, the Titanus carried many different, unaware passengers, the very people of human society, not knowing about the ancient powers that lay just beyond their planned routes. Among her respected passengers, Mr. Abernathy continued, his voice becoming more serious, were a group of determined police officers, not on vacation, mind you, but on a secret mission. They were tracking a small, hard-to-find group of criminals who, with smarts and boldness, had managed to sneak aboard the Titanus in a desperate attempt to escape justice. These weren't small-time thieves, they were professionals, masterminds of a bold international robbery. Their faces were on wanted posters in a dozen countries. The police, led by the strict, unyielding Inspector Thorne, were persistent. They moved quietly and efficiently through the ship's rich hallways. Their presence was almost unnoticed in their civilian clothes. Every sense they had was focused on finding their prey. They knew the criminals were aboard, hiding among the unaware crowds, and the tension of their hunt was a silent, simmering feeling beneath the ship's cheerful look. Every shadow held a possible clue, every unknown face a possible suspect. The police were like a coiled spring, ready to strike, their focus narrowed to the single goal of bringing these lawbreakers to justice, no matter how vast the ocean, no matter how luxurious the setting. Then there were the military personnel, a small group of highly trained soldiers and officers, not in uniform, but in civilian clothes, enjoying a well-earned vacation. They were individuals who had seen the harsh realities of the world, whose lives were usually controlled by strict rules and dangerous missions. On the Titanus, however, they had left their worries behind, enjoying the simple pleasures of relaxing. There was Captain Elena Rostova, a quiet, observant woman who, despite being off duty, still had an aura of quiet strength. And Sergeant Ben Carter, a loud, good-natured man who loved to joke and share stories with his friends. They played cards in the lounges, swam in the sparkling pools, and enjoyed fancy meals, their minds temporarily free from the weight of responsibility. They laughed easily, perhaps a little too loudly at times, thankful for this brief break from the world's demands, completely unaware that their skills, sharpened in training and battle, would soon be tested in a way they could never have imagined, in a conflict far removed from any earthly war zone.
And finally, Mr. Abernathy swept his hand outwards, showing the imaginary grand scale of the ship. There were the thousands of people, the tourists, a huge, small world of humanity, each with their own hopes, dreams, and reasons for going on this grand trip. There were honeymooners, their eyes still bright with new love, walking hand in hand along the moonlit decks, planning a future together. There were noisy families, children chasing each other through the wide promenades, their laughter echoing off the polished brass. Elderly couples, their faces marked with years of wisdom, sat quietly on deck chairs, gazing out at the endless sea, remembering a lifetime together. Solo adventurers, with cameras over their shoulders, looked for amazing views and new experiences. Business leaders, escaping the pressures of their empires, sipped expensive champagne in exclusive lounges. Artists drew the horizon, writers found inspiration in the endless blue, and dreamers simply enjoyed the luxury and the promise of discovery. They were a vibrant, busy community, brought together by the appeal of the open sea and the promise of an incomparable journey. They ate lavishly in grand dining halls, danced to lively orchestras in glittering ballrooms, and watched dazzling cabaret shows. They exchanged pleasantries, formed brief friendships, and enjoyed the illusion of complete safety and comfort provided by the magnificent Titanus. Each of them, from the youngest child to the oldest elder, carried within them a unique story, a personal history, and a future they believed was theirs to shape. They were ordinary people in an extraordinary ship, completely unaware of the ancient, powerful forces that were about to meet their carefully planned lives. Forces that knew nothing of human ambition or titanium hulls, only the deep, pulsing rhythm of the ocean and the songs that had been sung since the beginning of time.
Mr. Abernathy leaned back slightly, his eyes holding a deep seriousness. The ship, then, was not just a vessel. It was a symbol of human confidence, a world in itself, sailing across the vast, uncaring ocean. And within its walls, the ordinary and the extraordinary, the hunted and the hunters, the innocent and the experienced lived side by side. Their paths were destined to cross in a tragedy born of myth and misunderstanding. He paused, taking another slow sip of his tea. The flickering candlelight cast dancing shadows on his face, making him seem ancient and wise, like a character from the very myths he was telling. The room was completely silent, broken only by the crackle of the beeswax candle wick. Alex and the other children sat frozen, completely captivated. Their young minds painted vivid pictures of the Titanus and its many passengers, sailing towards an unknown, dangerous fate.
The world outside the dusty scroll no longer existed. Only Mr. Abernathy's voice, rich with the sound of ancient tales and the unfolding drama of the Titaness, felt real. The journey had truly begun. Thank you for watching Act 1 of The Dusty Scroll. If you enjoyed this journey into mystery, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. And drop a comment with your thoughts. What do you think? Are mermaids only a myth or something more? We'll see you in Act 2.